Welcome to Reconciling SaaS, the interview series where I talk to accountants with innovative business models and growth strategies who are showing what success looks like in and around the industry. I'm Guy Pearson. I'm a recovering accountant. I'm a co-founder and CEO at Ignition. And today we are joined by Ryan Lazanis, CEO and founder of Future Firm. Bonjour. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much, Guy. I'm very happy to be here. I'm not just saying that. When I saw this podcast launch, I said, hopefully one day I'm invited onto it. So yeah, looking forward to catching up with you.
Likewise, my friend. We've known each other for quite a while, which we'll get into a bit later. But for those folks who don't know you very well, how did your accounting journey start? And I guess, yeah, let's go way back to the beginning.
It started thanks to my father, who was a small business owner who went through the ups and downs of small business. He had a very successful print shop which we all know how that kind of business fared looking at it today. So I really saw the highs and lows, and the lows were quite low. And, he really, at a young age, he knew I wanted to be a business owner, but he really kind of pitched me on go into some kind of profession, something you could always fall back on if ever things go bad. And, I was looking at law, I was looking at accounting, I got accepted into law school. I went backpacking in Southeast Asia. This was like maybe 15 or more years ago. I loved it so much that I skipped out on law school and I stayed in Southeast Asia for several months. And I said, okay, it's not law, so it's accounting. And as soon as I got back from 6 months in Southeast Asia, I went into accounting, and that was the beginning of it.
Wow. And so, I mean, we've got your profile up here. So you're at Ryan Blatt, which is a super interesting last name. But is that a commercial firm? Like, is it a public practice, or was that a different kind of business?
Oh, I mean, that was so when I started looking for firms, I believe I didn't go through all the like the recruiting cocktails that the big firms were putting on. I think at the time I went into a phone book and just started calling small firms. I wanted to be part of a small firm because I wanted to kind of really be ingrained in the actual business and deal with the client from start to finish. So I kind of felt I wanted to be like more involved with a firm that was a little bit entrepreneurial. And I just started calling some firms in the phone book, and landed on this one. And I knew someone that had worked there, and I ended up working there for 5 years, and it gave me some good experience. But it was a very traditional firm, and I knew when I started my firm, I wanted to do things a lot differently.
Okay, cool. And so, I mean, that kind of looking at the timeline leads into Xen Accounting. And I'm not sure everyone knows that you used to run an accounting firm at this point in time, but let's let's talk about that journey, and sort of how and why Xen as the name with an X, and then tell us a bit about what you learned there and what you focused on.
Yeah, so after 5 years at the small firm I was working at, I went to work as an assistant controller at a medical company. I lasted there 6 months. I really, really hated it. It was really routine. It was not the kind of environment or vibe that I wanted whatsoever. And that was my opportunity to start my own thing. And the only thing I really knew how to do at the time was accounting. And I was a terrible accountant. It didn't click for me. I actually really dislike accounting. I don't even do my own accounting or taxes to this day. I don't trust myself with it, but it was what I knew how to do. I mean, to some extent. And I knew that I felt that there was a lot of pain that small business owners had when dealing with their accounting and their accounting firm. And I wanted to eliminate that pain. I wanted to make it an easier, pain-free experience for them. And I landed on this model out of the UK at the time, which was not a very popular model at all. Maybe in Australia, it was just kind of bubbling up, but it was an online model where they had bundled online accounting software that they had developed themselves with online accounting services. And I really thought that was the future, and I thought that I could help eliminate a lot of pain points with this more accessible accounting option. I felt that we could probably automate more stuff. We could eliminate, surprise bills and replace it with, predictable fixed price engagements on a subscription basis and things of that nature. So I really looked at all the pain points that I had when working in one of these traditional firms and clients had when dealing with these firms and their accounting. And I just wanted to kind of reverse them. So that was kind of the idea I had for Xen Accounting at the start. I wanted to name the firm after, I guess, the experience we wanted, or I wanted our clients to receive when I was starting out. And my wife just came with the idea, why don't you just do an X instead of a Z or a Z for Xen? And it feels a little bit fresh and modern. And, I just rolled with that. And that was the start of it.
Okay, cool. And so you ran that business for 6+ years. Yeah.
5 years. It was acquired 5 years into it, and then I did an extra year to transition things over.
Okay, so let's talk about the decision to exit the business and how that worked. I mean, as a client, candidly, I had no idea that you exited until we caught up sometime afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So
We did have emails,
smooth in
so
some respects. But
yeah.
talk us through the decision and how all that worked for you, and then we can get into what happened next.
Well, I never went into the business with the idea that I would actually sell it one day. I kind of was maybe a bit naive, and I looked at my father and he had his business for decades. And, I had other relatives that had their own business for decades, and they just kind of, rode it until retirement. And that's kind of what I had in mind for this one as well. I didn't really think otherwise. But really, it just came down to, when I started the firm, it was an earlier cloud firm in North America. And, 5 years later, or several years later, other firms wanted to get into the game and they wanted to acquire some kind of expertise in that space. And I started getting approached to merge or partner or, different types of arrangements. And that's really where I started to get extremely confused about what I wanted to do next in life. Because I had a good business, the business was growing.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have just continued with the business, or I had these other opportunities. So really, it was probably the most confusing time in my life to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I really went back and forth for quite a while until I took a step back and reclarified my purpose. And one of the reasons why I started Xen Accounting in the first place is because deep down I was frustrated with the profession. I was frustrated by the lack of progress and that we had these traditional models that really weren't serving anyone super well, for the most part, at least. And what I really wanted to do was just help advance the accounting profession. And when it became clear that when that became my purpose, and help other firm owners and help them implement a more modern model that helps, again, advance the profession, but better serve their lifestyles, the decision to sell became extremely easy. And that's when I decided to just go through. I received a good offer, decided to go through with it. And I knew immediately, even before I accepted the offer, I knew what I knew I wanted to start Future Firm. I didn't know exactly what it would be, but there was some ideas that I had, and Future Firm started almost immediately after. I think I took like a month vacation in the Middle East somewhere and cleared my head in the desert and came back and started Future Firm like right after that.
Fair enough, mate. Was there a particular bit or piece about the offer that you received? Like, what was the most important piece? Obviously, you have price, right? That's one piece,
The
but was
most
there anything
important
else?
piece was actually the ability to do what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so like a no non-compete for you to serve into the accounting industry.
Some kind of carve out that allowed me to do exactly what I'm doing right now.
Cool. All right, sweet. So let's get into Future Firm.
Yep.
Um, that so you want to top the accounting industry. So I'm paraphrasing yourself at the moment. You'd obviously grown and sold and exited a business that was successful. You'd achieved some level of work-life balance and growth and profitability, which not super easy, I guess, from scratch. Sometimes it takes people years, if not decades, to get to that point. Um, so what do you think? So we've got some points here around advisory and pricing and packaging and the notes and work-life balance. What do you want to start with? What do you think is the most important thing?
I think like when I started Future Firm, it's 5 years into Future Firm, which feels like it's gone very fast. And, really Future Firm, what it's there to do is help firms systematize their business model so that they could essentially earn more and work less. And we've kind of heard that line before, but that's really what we want to do, is give more freedom to firm owners, give more freedom to those that are generally chained to their business. And how could you create a smooth running operation where you can kind of take a step back from it and actually take several vacations per year and disconnect and spend more time with your family and not have to go through all these crazy busy seasons and work 80 hours a week. So really, when I started Future Firm, I thought I would be a technology consultant or an automation consultant because that's what everyone was looking for. And then very quickly I saw that's just one element of building a business that can actually, provide you with freedom. And that's when I kind of started looking at things from a more holistic standpoint. I'm kind of losing track of where I was going with that, but yeah, after being able to coach hundreds of firms in our Future Firm Accelerate program, we have a program where we have 850 firms from around the world that are all looking to systematize their firm so they can scale it to the level they desire while being able to take a step back. And the common theme seems to be the money is important, growth is important, but what's even more important to them is the ability to have balance, the ability to reduce their stress levels, to spend more time with their loved ones, and to take vacations throughout the year. So that's really what we're focused on. Yes, we want to help them grow. Yes, we want them to be profitable, but the number one priority really is balance. And that's really what we hit on in the program. So I don't know where you want to go with that, Guy, but I probably took things in a direction that maybe I shouldn't have, but that
No,
may be
no,
good.
no.
Yeah.
Well, let's
So
start. I feel like that's the end result, right? So there's a couple of things that are going to enable that. But I'm going to read out a tweet that you made. I don't have a date on this one. So it's if you want a better work-life balance, here are 7 productivity tips that let me work 6 hours per day and take weekends off. Number 1, say no more often than you say yes. Remove yourself from being CC'd on everything. That's number 2. Number 3 is enable focus mode on devices. Done that right now, by the way. Number 4 is use a distraction blocking app. I use Rescue Time. Number 5, listen to non-distracting music. I use Brain.fm. 6, clear your emails in batches during your least productive time of the day. Number 7, and the final point, calendar block your most productive part of the day. Better work-life balance doesn't magically happen. You have to make it happen. Right? So that's from you. I presume you wrote your own tweet, knowing you. I feel like that's, as you said, you listed out a whole bunch of points there. Like that's kind of the end state, right? So that's what you're looking to help people reach, is an efficient work day where they are in control of it, and they have a business model that makes sense, and sort of high value clients. Now that's my outside intake. We talk about the work-life balance. What do you think is the most important thing of those 7? If you want to touch on one of
first
them.
one. I mean, a
Say
lot of
no
them are
more.
just little tweaks that honestly aren't going to move the needle a ton. But I think knowing how to say no and being disciplined about saying no is very, very important. That's where we could really guard our time, because there's so many opportunities that come our way as business owners that if you just said yes to everything, there's no way you're going to have any kind of freedom or balance in your life. So you really have to be ruthless about saying no. And I think that's one thing. I really value a clear calendar. I like to have my calendar as clear as possible. And I like to eliminate as many meetings as possible. I'm a big proponent of asynchronous forms of communication. I think Loom just did their annual wrapped review or whatever it is. And, I don't know how they come to this number, but they put me in the top 1% of Loom users, where I had 500 Loom videos this year, eliminated 1,000 meetings by their calculations. But I'm a big proponent of these kinds of ways of working. But I think out of that list, most of those are small tweaks, but the big one is knowing how to say no.
Well, I appreciate you saying yes to come on the podcast with me.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a couple of things, having run my own firm, that kind of enabled the space, so I exited the day-to-day and my firm has started another company within 3 years, which is kind of unusual. But I would say selling more to the same group of clients, having fixed recurring revenue, like what you talked about. And obviously part of that is advisory and focusing in on a niche. So for me, that allows you to then focus on how does your business actually run. So systematize it because you've got cash flow coming in, capacity, structured workflows, um, to kind
And
of
that's the
enable that
starting
free
point.
time. Yeah,
For me,
exactly.
that's the starting point. Like when we start our coaching, a lot of people are coming to us about like process improvement and technology and automation. And if you don't have your offers and your offers properly productized and you don't have them well priced, like no amount of automation or technology is going to help, in my opinion. So like for me, that's the starting point of it all.
Okay, well, let's dig in a bit there. I mean, why do you think? I mean, part of this piece is standardization, but a big chunk of that is usually boosting the price that our compatriots charge for their services. So why do you think uh, folks struggle with that? And I think you've got a comment here that Chelsea's found is like the three main reasons being guilt, uncertainty, and fear.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's so prevalent in the accounting industry?
I think like it's a two-part. Like I think the way I look at packaging is first we need to identify who we really want to go after and develop offers, or like, so we need to focus to some extent on who we're going to be targeting, and a lot of firms have trouble focusing, so they're going after a very broad, they're going after everybody, when I think we need to be segmenting a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to be crafting offers that curate an experience that allow us to, like when I had my firm, the experience I wanted our clients to have was an easy, pain-free experience. So how do you include different services and features into your packages so that every single client experiences that to some extent? And then we
Mm-hmm.
have to know how to actually price this stuff out. So it's kind of like a three-step process, and none of these like some of these steps are harder than others, but I think accountants struggle with every single one of those things I just mentioned for a variety of reasons.
Gotcha. And do you have a theory of like what is the best place to start? So I think you said the experience. So is it defining who you're serving and what kind of experience they get? Is that the sort of, without revealing too much secret sauce of what Future Firm
Well,
does?
no, I mean, there's not like a whole ton of secret sauce, to be honest. Um, like they have trouble identifying who their ideal client should be. So why don't you just look
Yeah.
at your client list and look at like the top 5 to 10 clients, see what they have in common. The ones that pay you the most, the ones you get the best results for, the ones that like
Mm.
working with you the most, things like that, and just see what do they have in common, and let's just go after those. And then determining what's the kind of experience we want these clients to have. Like, is it to help them boost their profitability and grow? Is it to help them, save time? Like, what's the result that we're looking to? What's the common denominator for the results that we're achieving for these clients? And how can we develop like a package where it's a bundle of services and features that allow, each of these new clients we bring on board to have the same results in a predictable manner. So there's a combination of services and features that we could
Mm-hmm.
put into a bronze plan and a silver plan and a gold plan that allow them to get a predictable result. And then it comes to pricing, which really stumps accountants, because they're always looking for a formula to back up every number out there.
Mm-hmm.
And pricing high, it comes down to understanding people and the clients or the prospect and the lead. And the firm is always looking at a spreadsheet to produce the perfect price, when really it just comes down to understanding people. So I think these are a couple things that come to mind.
Uh, Now, my firm has put up prices over the years, and I know their results. That's a first-hand experience. Have you ever seen a firm through Future Firm or otherwise like put up their prices and, let's say, not abhorrently, so less than 50%? Let's just start there, and in a standard service offering, and lose, like ruin their business? Have you ever seen that?
Wow.
No.
The quickest win that I see in the program is increasing pricing.
Yeah.
And like if we look at, we have a, like in our forum, so it's an online platform, and we have like you know self-paced education on all these topics we're discussing, and we have a community forum, where they all get together and share their success or share any challenges they have. And we have a special sub forum on, share your wins. And, the vast majority of people chiming in is, increase price 100%, increase price 200%, like, significant price increases. And a lot of it is just confidence. A lot of it is also understanding the process or the methodology or the tactics to do it as well. But yeah, I don't see it ruining businesses ever. I don't think I've even seen that once happen, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go a step further. I'm pretty sure so my old firm, the firm that I started, boosted prices the same end of financial year period I stopped being an active member of the team. Now, I wasn't client facing at that time, and their email they got was like, hey, by the way, guys exiting the day to day. Now, bear in mind, we're 3 years old, so imagine that most of them have had a touch point with me. And the second part was, by the way, we're also increasing your prices by 25%. I think we lost one client out of however many hundred they were dealing with, and the revenue went up. And they started going faster because I was the last bottleneck, like removed of the processes that we had at the firm.
And sometimes you
So
want to lose clients. Sometimes you should be
yeah.
losing clients.
Well, thankfully we didn't have too many that we'd already churned out the kind of the original ones from when we were sort of doing everything when I first started, and then we built out our niches mostly around e-commerce and software or high growth businesses. I think it's probably a better way, like where they're actually interested in the unit economics, like what drives their business, because that's sort of where we could add value as opposed to someone who just wants to minimize tax. I'm not saying we couldn't do that, but it just wasn't. We weren't sort of trying to be the best at that. We were more about balance sheet and equity value. So anyway, I rolled out a mix of mostly fixed, a little bit of value pricing for projects. Do you have a view on sort of where you land for firms or for yourself in terms of how you think about it, like your philosophy on pricing
I
and
mean,
those two
I'm
different
pretty
methodologies?
impartial, truthfully. I think there's a place for both models. I think like what most firms would benefit from, I'd say, would be the value pricing approach. They're more of a boutique type firm, but if we're really pushing like volume, then, the sales process is just longer when it comes to value pricing. So, if we don't have a ton of leads and we're not like getting, thousands of clients a year as an example, then, the fixed pricing approach, we'd have a faster sales process. So, but most firms I'm seeing in the program are adopting the value pricing approach so that we can maximize profitability on each and every client.
Got it. Yeah, I understand the argument for both. I was always the no surprise bills. I want my team to sell, and I want us to become more efficient. And so we standardize packages. It becomes a whole lot easier.
We've
Value-based
had
pricing is a little
discussions
bit harder
about
because it's a bit more nuanced, right?
we've had discussions about this and the three-tiered
Yeah.
approach in the past. So yeah, we won't
We're
necessarily.
not here to solve the world's problems. I'm just like I feel like there's, to your point, there's space for both, and I feel
Yeah,
like it
there's
depends
no,
on what
there's
you're doing.
no, I mean, everyone has a different approach. There's other firm I know that I greatly respect that, I like the three-tiered approach, but there's other firms that I greatly respect that only believe in, the one option approach, where they're fixed pricing or value pricing. Like there's different ways to slice it.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, I think it's all about the confidence, the delivery, and the sort of professional style of the approach or how they deliver it candidly,
Mm-hmm.
which will yield a successful result or not. Okay, so pricing and packaging super key. Uh, Lifting prices doesn't mean you lose clients. It's a confidence issue there. And just so we only tackle the small issues today, jumping over to advisory.
But
Uh,
I actually,
yeah.
when it comes to tax season, I actually want firms to lose a lot of clients during tax season because they have too many tax clients where um, um, it's not sustainable to support that level of clients with their current workforce. They can't staff up easily enough, and it's too much low value work that they're just churning out. I would actually prefer. I think we could substantially raise prices on tax prep work if we have a good packaging strategy, while
Mm-hmm.
subsequently chopping a good chunk of clients as well, and not sacrificing revenues or even increasing revenues while saving capacity. I think is quite feasible with the proper approach. So actually, during tax season, I would like to see a lot of firms
chopping clients. Makes a whole lot of sense, and pricing is a good forcing function for that. So if we want to move to advisory as the next sort of wave of topics, I spent some time in last few months in the US attending conferences, and it was a little bit of a common theme. It's sort of tax to CAS or CAS up into advisory. And so what do you think people need to be able to make this leap and sort of perhaps move away from just the peak tax season, US, Canada, tax time, main business model in accounting, which is high stress, high velocity at certain times of the year, and then sort of big vacation typically, from what I understand, but just lots of stress and terrible AR. So, what do you think is required for them to sort of move away from just tax only into advisory?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a proponent of one approach or other. Like, I don't care if someone wants to run just a compliance-based firm. There's proper, good, profitable ways to do it. And if someone wants to go, like, there's that narrative in the industry that you have to go into advisory. I think there's ways to run great compliance firms. But we did offer advisory services at our firm. I think like what it really depended on was having clean data. So we actually controlled the books for all of our clients. It was a requirement. And the productization of advisory services. It's difficult to scale advisory if everything is ad hoc all the time. So, if you have one way to do your budgeting, if you have one way to provide cash flow forecasts, if you have one way to build that into a process, that's kind of the approach that we took. One thing that we included in all our packages was something called health checkup calls. So it was a requirement that a health checkup call at minimum had to be done once a year on our base plan at the midpoint of their financial or fiscal year, just so that we could, remember going back to what I wanted to achieve with Xen Accounting was, an easy, pain-free experience. And sometimes there was pain associated with surprises happening at year end. Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? So, a mid-year check-in call with the client to see, just a call, see what's going on with the client, see what's going on with their business. But usually we included quarterly calls like that. And we had a framework for these calls. So, anyone on the team could kind of handle it. Well, they'd have to have like some level of experience, but most people on the team would be able to handle it. So, very much believe in just productizing advisory, so we have a repeatable, consistent way to deliver each and every one of those services. That was a big part of it. But obviously there's certain skills that the team need to be trained on as well.
Gotcha. Okay. So tax firm or move to advisory, your choice. Try to productize the things that are repeatable, so that you have a standard way of doing things. You can scale it up and offer it to a bigger range of your clients, and then they can be bespoke on top of that.
Yeah. We just tried to eliminate as much of the once-off stuff as possible. Obviously, if we have some high-value clients, there's definitely some once-off stuff that needs to be done from time to time, but we're just trying to build as much as possible into a routine.
Yep, 100%. Okay. So looking forward, about sort of 24 is upon us. What does this look like for yourself and future firm?
I think we have a good product. Ultimately, what we want to do is just help accountants save more time. That's our big focus, is help them save more time. So a lot of our product is, going to be oriented around that, resources that are going to help them achieve. Most of us are very strapped for time. So how could we develop an educational resource or a coaching platform that we have and help get firms results as quickly as humanly possible? So that's really what we're designing our education around, what our coaching around, support around, really just focusing more on the quick win kind of stuff so that they could see results very fast. Right now we have around 850 active members on the platform. We started the platform only around 2.5 years ago. So I think we've seen some good results. It's quite popular, I think, in the industry. So just continuing on with that growth and trying to help as many many firms around the world as possible. One thing I really like about what we do is it's truly international. So, and that's one thing, when I started my firm, I really benefited greatly from seeing what other firms around the world were doing, what interactive accounting was doing in Australia, what Crunch in the UK, who I, originally got the idea from, was doing. Everyone does things a little bit differently, and some places are more advanced than others. And we can kind of draw on that collective knowledge and experience. We have firms, South Africa, we have firms, Singapore, across Asia, Middle East, everywhere in the world. And that's one of the things I like best about that. So that's one thing I really enjoy about the platform, is just seeing all these firms from around the world get together and help each other out.
So, if folks want to, find you next year and have a chat or see you or hear you talk, where is that going to be happening? Are there conferences? Are you doing more sort of webinars, YouTube? Like, where is all that going to be
Yeah,
sort
I
of
mean, I
remotely?
am kind of a behind the scenes kind of guy. So I went to one conference this year, which I saw you at. And I don't have many plans to go to that many conferences next year. Um, so I might go to, one or two next year. But the best place is just to join my newsletter. I have around 10,000 readers on my newsletter, where I'm just, emailing different tips and tricks and content and tactics to help firms systematize and work less in their firm and improve their level of flexibility and freedom. So my newsletter is the best place to keep in touch. I'm a little too connected to my email. That's one thing I am working on at the moment. But yeah, futurefirm.co/newsletter. That's the best place to get in touch. And yeah, from there, I don't have an exact roadmap for 2024 of where exactly I'll be.
Okay. Usually we do a pitch yourself sort of hot wings style if you're familiar with the show at the end, but I feel like you might have just done that. So jump
Did
on
I? All
Ryan's
right.
newsletter
All
and we're
right.
gonna go back. We're gonna go back to front, and now we've got a bit of a fun part, which is Ryan doesn't know these questions are coming, but they're fill in the blank questions. So I'm gonna ask you a couple of generic ones we ask everybody, and then there's a couple that are just designed for you. So my favorite thing to do on a vacation is
Disconnect from email and my computer.
on the weekend you'll find me.
Training for triathlon, which I've got into in the last few years.
Awesome. Uh, would you prefer to go to a concert or a sporting event?
Sporting event.
What's your favorite sporting event you've been to?
Come on, you know what the answer is, guy.
I'm not going to make any assumptions.
Montreal Canadiens, hockey.
Awesome. What's your favorite bit of tech these days?
Not super exciting answer, but I'm a big fan of Loom. I think it saves me a ton of time, and it's a very simple tool that's been around for years, and I heavily rely on that. I also really like our email and chat based app called Missive. They were a client of ours when I was running the firm. I'm not sure where they're at right now, but yeah, I love how they've integrated chat and email into one app. So everything's centralized there, and it's a really pleasant tool to use for communication with the team and with customers.
Great. Bone marrow is.
Delicious. No one will get that one though.
No, you're a big proponent of bone marrow. That's all I wanted to confirm, and
Hey,
thank you for
okay.
doing so. My travel plans, and you're a big proponent of holidays. Do you have a location you're hoping to visit in 2024?
Yeah, so usually for the winters, I like to head away. I just came back from Curacao. I was there for 3 weeks, and I'll be going to Indonesia and Sri Lanka for 6 weeks starting end of January.
Yeah, you're really just bugging out on the cold Montreal
Yeah,
winters.
I like
Perfect.
that was the plan with this business, is be able to work from anywhere, and yeah, I'm happy to be achieving that.
Awesome. Well, Ryan Lazanis, thank you so much. I'm pretty sure we're about 10 years on from when we first met, and having had enjoyed bone marrow with you, I think you had to convince me that it was edible.
Yeah.
But it's awesome to see what you're doing, and really happy and thankful to still be on a good basis, and looking forward to seeing what you do in 2024. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Always love interacting with you and your team. So yeah, Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Ryan.